Live. It's Thursday night or afternoon here in South Georgia. And I wrote the title of this thing. It's like, then I started giggling. I've been sitting here for the last 5 minutes, laughing my tail off about, being, you know, um, overdosed. I'm a prime to grow up like me and end up like me. I overdosed when and microdosed when I was younger. Look at what it did to me. Blah. you know, hey, would you like to? I'm, I'm sitting there laughing because it's like, well, what a prime way to start a video about microdosing and hardcore psychedelic drugs than to open it up laughing. I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator after 56 seconds into this. But to the point, though, it is a serious subject and I overdid it. Let me be quite frank with that. Hi, Dominic. Good afternoon to you as well. And people ask me questions and things, and I don't ever give out anybody's name unless they say, "Oh, it's okay," but I still don't like to do that because it's more about the topic and the discussion and than what who brought it up. But to the point, though. Hi, Ian. But so I use the number 400 as a conservative number, is the amount of times I've dropped acid and mushrooms and mescaline. And now I never did DMT. It wasn't around when in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe even into the 2000s, at least in my neighborhood. You know what I mean? But I used to live beside a mushroom field, and I used to grow mushrooms back in the day simply by going and harvesting them. Back in 74, 75, 1975. And people are like, well, I used to eat mushrooms that were like this big around, where actually probably a quarter or half of that would have got me off. Ate the whole thing, didn't come down for 2 days, regretted that. So we're only going to eat the small ones, but you get a button that just opens up. It's about this big around. And you think, this is not very big. You eat that thing and you don't come down for 2 days. I mean, it's like, oh, okay here. So I've had more than my share of experiences in a lot of different ways in a lot of different areas, using, uh, LSD was my first choice out of the box because I lived in Tampa and it was there. But when I moved to the country, I found out, well, mushrooms are really good. And then there was a period of my life where I had access to some really good blotter acid, and I literally microdosed every day. And so I bring this subject up because there are folks who are doing things to try to achieve a certain level of awareness. They want to get into that other side, the DMT. Now, I cannot speak about DMT, but I can speak about all these other drugs I have taken. Okay, my experience with them, which I don't want to get into too much, because it's not so much the experience as what you learned after it. And as a shaman in training, there were times when I had a guide with me while I was doing mushrooms. And so it was like, all right, now, so what do you see and where are you going and what is your thought pattern? So when you have a guide, when you're tripping, they're the ability for them to point things out to you or interpret, because they're not tripping and you are. They're the ones that are on the ground holding the stick, if you will, so that if you wander off too far, they can put their hand on your shoulder and go, come back here a little bit, So there were times, though, that, I took the journey without anyone and just went off for myself. And afterwards, I was like, oh my God, I went too far. But now, so you say, well, did you learn anything from it? And what I learned from it was that I went too far, because there was so much information and so much download, so much of the experience, that when I got back home here to me inside of my personal self, when I got back inside of me and came home, the the reality of this 3D whacked in on me, and it was as creepy, if not creepier in a way, than being in it wherever I was during the trip, during the journey. And many of these were out in the woods or on mountainsides, or I don't want to say deep in the jungle, but deep in the swamp, um, because I do live on the edge of a swamp here. But there was always special cases. I was never one to want to go out and go partying or something. So um, a good 90% of all the times I've ever done anything, no, probably more like 98%, was done with intent, on the river, in the woods, around the fire, and there was some kind of natural element that was tied to it. So I wasn't in the city at a party or stuck in the basement of an apartment building or something, and tripping out. No, 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 no. I was 98% of the time. I just did, if I was going to do something like that, I wanted to be home. Or I wanted to be in the woods or somewhere where I felt safe instead of around people. People just mess it up. But anyway, but with all of that though, in the microdosing that I did to myself, after a certain point, it was like I got to a point where if I do this again, I'm going to shoot myself. I mean, almost figuratively, not suicidal, but it was like, wow, I want to keep doing this. And there was another part of my brain that finally said, oh, no, we don't. And what I realized was back then, because I was a younger kid, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, um, during that period of time. So, that was a half a lifespan ago in a way for me. But to the point, though, I still remember that mess, some of those things, sort of a little bit too vividly, if you will, in that I realized that I had gone too far. And the gone too far is very simple. Um, oh, yeah, it's fun to be out there all the time or to have that mini dosing or the going on and to kind of be on that edge. I have lived there. But let me tell you, what needs to happen, that's okay for short periods of time. But in order for you to keep your honest to God sanity, you need to come back home to yourself. I don't necessarily mean your house home, but home, you. You need to don't do it because you've downloaded so much information. I mean, it's like trying to stuff a whole cabbage down the drain without uh, a garbage disposal. You know, I used to have a garbage disposal, and I could put a whole head of cabbage in there. Well, there's no garbage disposal here, and that head of cabbage ain't going nowhere. So it's almost like the head of cabbage is the too much information, and our tiny little brains just get crammed with too much stuff, and you have to take a break. You must take a break. Otherwise, it will trip you out to a point where no one will understand you. I mean, you'll try to talk to people. I've met people who have microdosed, and they're like, yeah, man, this, that, and it's like, and their sentences are like this long, and they can't keep but yeah, man, it was like, yeah, yeah, what'd you say, man, huh? I think I understand, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, hmm. So when you're tripping, you don't know if you've had too much because you're tripping. And you don't know because you're tripping if you're microdosing too much. I did it to myself, okay? So, and I can't tell you what to do, but I can warn you. If you think that that's good in the long run, it ain't. From a simple, energetic, mental capacity in you and your brain, you must, all shamans, all spiritual leaders, if you ever take the journey, they always say, now, it's not the journey that you take, it's the coming back. What do you bring back with you? So if you're always on the journey, you can't bring anything back. You're off somewhere else. So you have to go out. When you go out there, You learn, but you must bring it back to this reality. And you must, otherwise, you're just tripping, you're just having fun, and you're using, oh, I want to learn how to be on a higher level. And that's an excuse. I did that same thing. I used it as an excuse, but I learned how to talk to a brown and sharp uh, um, grinder while microdosing, and I could do some really good precision grinding when I was microdosing. So I learned a lot of things, but I also learned that I went too far. I took it too far because the brain had when you don't do it, which you'll reach. Are you going to microdose forever? I mean, seriously, that's not a good idea, because when the dosing is to open up pathways in your brain. So the journey back is to, I went out there in my mind. Oh, holy crap. What did I learn? What did I see while I was there? So if I don't ever really come back, I can't bring the lessons with me. I can't absorb the lessons I learned on my own while out there. So, of all the things I've learned in my 67 years, is don't do that. You know, go out, get some information. Yes, it's wonderful to trip and to be out and to do that, but come home. You got to come home. You got to give the brain, your whole system, time to readjust to where you've just come back from. You must do it. It's not only just simply for your own sanity, but it's for your own health and it's for your own good. It's not good to go out there all the time. It's really not. Now, I know there are people who would love to argue with me, and that's fine. You argue with me in my 500 trips. And how much have you done? Sorry, I did 50 almost in 1 week. Yeah, I was putting some acid in my body, and not a good thing. So people say, well, where have you been? I've been out there. And I used to walk and talk and drive and everything. It's amazing I made it through and nobody noticed. They always they said, Dave, there was a period there for about 2 weeks where you got really strange. You just kind of look at us and smile. That's all I could do. I couldn't talk. I was like, I was seeing so much in the colors, and I would just go, hi, and smile and go right over to my little job and do my, you okay, Dave? Fine. Hum, 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 hum. I'm tripping out. My gourd should not have been anywhere near high precision equipment. And here I am, dealing with things that are like 10 times smaller than the human hair. I mean, 4-point decimal points. Anyway, so, but in that, I learned so many things, but yeah, I learned that I went too far. Not only did I take too much during that one period of time, but also that I had taken too much over the period of time. And so my adjustment back into reality was really weird. I walked better when I was on the acid than I did after I got off of the acid. For several days, I was like walking like a drunk man. It was like reality sucked. But being out there, I had to come home to the woods. I'd lived here back then. And I had to come home to the woods and say, whoa. And it was like my whole aura was going, trying to comprehend where I'd been, those feelings, all the color. I mean, all of it. And so there's that adjustment back to this reality, which we should come back to, because if we're on our true spirit path, it's all right to go out there and journey out there and get understanding from the other realms. But our mission is here. So we got to be here for our mission. Now, back then, it was a cool thing to do, and I didn't have any other obligations. I lived by myself. It was after a divorce, and I just went through a crazy time after my second divorce. And so, I didn't have anybody to answer to. So I could sit out here for 2 or 3 days on my own and just commune with nature, which is exactly what I did. But in all of those lessons and all of those things up to right now and to this point in time, it's made me loony as a tune. I mean, I can sit here and laugh and say, but it broke a few things loose somewhere in there. Now, since that time, I've been hit in the head a bunch of times, and my brain cells got rearranged on their own, or well, not because of my misgivings. People running into me in car accidents, and I've had a lot of head injuries. So, but and I think it's because I've had out of body experiences that I was able to like overcome some of the drooling and the mania and things that I had to stay on psychotic drugs. Now, I took legal drugs. I got off the acid and all that and didn't do any mushrooms and tried and cleaned myself up. And then doctors put me on antipsychotics and so forth because I was having trouble dealing with after all the head injuries. And they made me just as high, crazy, or otherwise trippy as the acid and stuff that I took. But I had a lot more after effects and side effects, bad ones, from the medical doctor's medicine than I did from just taking an organic mushroom, which is what I mostly took in my many experiences. They used to grow a lot down here in South Georgia, but anyway, you can still find them if you know where to look. But anyway, to the point though, is it actually sane to do it? And the answer is please be careful. I would suggest you consider microdosing, pick a period of time and say, I'm going to microdose for a week. But at the end of that week, then you stop versus, well, I'm going to microdose until. No. If you're going to do the experiment, if you want the experience, then you must set limits before you start. Okay. If you're serious about the journey, you're serious about what's in here, then shamans just don't say, oh, well, hey there, Hawkeye, you showed up today. Look, I got a peyote button. Here, sit down. Let's have one. No. No. It doesn't go like that. So if you're going to microdose, I would microdose on a vacation to where you can be out in nature or something versus microdose during your everyday life. And I did that. I've experienced this several times in my life. There have been several periods where I kind of microdosed for 2, 3, 4 days, sometimes 2 weeks. And I'm here to tell you, after the experience, the last time I just looked at myself in the mirror and said, why in the hell did you do that again? And I said, no, never more. If I do any kind of mushrooms or anything or any type of psychedelic, it's going to be for one time. Get over it. Get yourself back to who you are so that you can understand what the experience was. So that's my warning to y'all. It's up to you. It's your choice. There will people who will say, well, I feel it's necessary for me to do this right now. And that could be because you're dosed and there's some entity out there that wants your energy. And right now, as many of us in all kinds of fields in this age and time, many of us, regardless of whether or not, anyway, we are all discussing basically the same thing. There are some nasty energies out there running around. There is a spiritual war going on. And if you take yourself out of your own self, and if you expose yourself to other energies and things, you're dosing, you don't know what you brought back. You don't know if all of you came back. You don't know. You think you do, and but I've been there, done that, and said, oh, shit, I should not have done that. But after you've already been out and done that, how are you going to erase that? You can't. You've already done it. So if an entity or some kind of energy of something has tagged you while you were out, and I mean this in a nice, gentle way, out there kind of clowning around, I went out just to see what I could see. Hey, let's go out here and let's see what the universe will show me today. Having no real intent on, I have a particular thing I want to learn. No, I'd just say, okay, I'm going to take some shrooms, go out in the woods and see what's on the tube. You know what I'm saying? And then go, holy crap. Some things came on the tube that was like, I didn't want this channel. Tough. This is what you got for the now. And you got critters, you got things, you got bloods, guts, gore, and stuff. And, so you got to be, when people are out there just doing stuff, you know, you'll learn after the fact. Sure, go ahead, try it, but you may be sorry in the long run. Take it from some of us old geezers. And I'm not telling you to don't ever do it. No, but have a guide with you, have a plan. If you're going to do DMT or anything, now I've never done DMT, so I can't remark about that. But I've had some really good mushrooms, some really good peyote. I've had some really good mushrooms that just like, phew, oh my God. So my experience is limited to those those things, plus some pharmaceuticals that were given to me on purpose. But the end, the wisdom at the end of the experience is this: be careful, and I would limit you what you're doing. You may want to consider, for example, what a microdose is. And I changed my pattern many years ago, but what I did was, like, from every day some, I went to like every weekend some. So I had the week to kind of get back over it, and then I boing back up on Friday night and had Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday to get over it, kind of thing, to come back to reality so I could go to work back on Monday. So with that cycle, though, I realized that even that, after like a month of doing every Saturday, Friday, Saturday, every weekend in a row, got taxing, for so many reasons. It was like, well, I'm still kind of digesting the last trip I made. And what I learned is that these trips actually should be special. We shouldn't just be tripping the light fantastic, as the saying goes, willy-nilly, just out here. Come on, let me see what I can see. Right now, it was crazy back in the day. Oh, crap. I don't need LSD or anything now to see the crap that's going on now. And one of the things that I would like to explain is this, that if you take the trip, take the journey, what you keep from the journey when you get back is important. So you should not focus just on the journey going there. What knowledge do I bring back? What is material to me that I should bring back from this experience? Because I took this thing with the intent of learning something. So what do I hang on to? What do I bring back? That's important. And if you're truly into your learning your spirit, you will allow your brain, your spirit, your body, and everything to recover. That's what's important. Well, you get high for a couple days. That's, I won't do it anymore. But I can't say I ain't never done that. Oh, I was horrible. Want to get high? Sure, I was there. But I realized that, and I got to a point where it was like with alcohol. I don't want another drink. I don't want to drink another beer. I don't want another shot of tequila. I'm sorry. I just don't want it. But with the psychedelics, it was like, though, it was different in that I understood that I was trying to access too much information from another section of the universe that I was not prepared to receive at the time. And as it was coming in, I could still only retain bits and pieces of it. So I spent all this time going out there to learn, but what I could actually bring back at the end of the day and tell you what I saw or explain it to you amounted to a page in a diary. I got high yesterday, saw some really pretty colors. I think I met God again. I went through the clouds and into the universe, and oh, holy shit, what a trip it was. Date, blah, blah, Dave. And then years later, I go through some old writings and things, and I go, well, I got really high that day, and that's all I remembered. There had to have been more. So the journey out, okie dokie, but the journey back with the information. So understand there are different levels of this. So I'm not trying to beat anybody up about this. You do what you feel is right for you, but understand that the body and your soul and the spirit, there's so much more than just, well, I think I'll get high one more day or something. You know what I mean? So whatever that I knew it was some type of an urge in me that I needed to just go ahead and take another one, like having another beer. Very subconscious, unconscious. Sometimes wondered why did I open that beer and end up drinking and say, well, that wasn't too bad. I'll have another. It just one might say that it was the devil. The Baptist preacher was like, well, you just got the devil in you, Mr. Dave. Well, well, that I would kind of say that it is devil meant in a way, because drinking all the time, all the money spent, all the slurred drunkenness and falling down and and pissing people off because I was in a drunken stupor again. Um, the Basically the money spent that I literally peed out. And so it's like, well, so what good did any of that do? So it was all wasted time, effort, energy, and everything. So if you're going to do something like any of the above psychedelics or whatever, then at least have a plan and think about it ahead of time. And think about, okay, I have a particular goal. I want to know about this particular thing. What can you show me? And then write it down in a journal. You're going to do this? All right, then do it. And make it worth your own while. Whether you share your experience with someone else or not is not the point. But as I've noticed after all my years, I had no idea I would be talking about this in a YouTube video on a little computer in my house down here in the swamp. I never saw this coming. So we don't know what's going to happen in our future years. And I would also say that for younger folk who are getting into this kind of thing, listen, if you think you can understand what your life's about, just stop worrying. Don't try to figure it out. Live your life the best you can every day. Now you may be wishing to help people. It's always good to have goals. And if your goals are with good intent and positive intent, I've done many shows that started out with a thought. And then I went to talk to people and we ended up doing stage productions. And so, it took a year or two to do some of these things, but we did them. We accomplished them. So in my own life, yeah, you say, well, so you put on a theater production. You know how hard it is to put on a theater production from scratch and costumes and yeah, sometimes it takes a year, especially when you're trying to work it into a season with a theater group. But my point to that is that I realized how you can make a dream come true if you believe, if the intent was positive. And most of what I've ever tried to do, it has worked good. Only one particular stage production was cursed from the start. We all agreed and said, let's not touch this one again, and backed off. And it was literally cursed. But anyway, but to the points though, everything else worked out. And I've surrounded myself with people of League of Like-Minded Beings who wanted the same type of effect. So in our life, if you want to do a spiritual journey, find someone to do it with, and maybe they're the straight one. Find someone that will be your staff. Find someone who will keep you grounded when you may tend to wander a little too far. Because when you're wandering, you don't know if you went too far. You don't. I've been down in the swamp and you think, oh, I got this, and I haven't really gone that far. And you find out that you've wandered too far, not just in the spirit world, but I mean, That's how people get lost. Well, I'll go out here. Well, I do know my way back. But my point is that I got tired. And I was like, oh, holy crap, I'm further than I thought. And now when on the return, because I can't sit down here in the swamp. Skeeters are eating me alive. I'm running out of water, didn't bring any food. It was a day trip. And now I'm down here and it's getting dark and I still ain't home yet, and you're tired and you're sweaty and you're drudging. And that's the same thing in the spirit world. You stay out in the trip so long, as you start coming down, there's a tiredness that settles in. And there's a tiredness like, whoa, that's you coming back into this body. That's you coming back into self. And you got to allow yourself that transition back in. It just think about it. Just think about it. Y'all, it's your choice to do. And I kindly warn you, if you do, to be careful with what you do. Have someone around at all times that can be a staff. Doing things on your own in this day and time with psychedelics of any kind, I would seriously say, can you wait a little while? Now might not be the best time to do it. Just go out there on a spiritual journey. If you've already taken it, then just try to remember the last trip you were on and try it. I mean, as an ex LSD freak, try it. Try to remember your last trip. And what did you learn? Well, I don't know. It was a week ago or two. I was like, yeah, what did you learn? I don't know. We were sitting in the woods. What'd you learn? I don't know. I remember waking up by the fire and cold as hell because we fell asleep by the campfire. Yeah, and so the exercise, if you're going to learn higher understanding with you and your own self and the universe, is to try to peel back those layers. So you've been there. All right, now I need to bring them into this reality. I need to fish them out of the fish tank of the subconscious and bring them into the conscious because I want to experience, I want to understand that which I've already experienced. So just take that into consideration, my friends. I do love you. Please be careful. And like I said, I ain't telling you don't do it, but I am telling you, be careful. Make sure, pick the dates that are not numerically a heavy date. Like, don't go tripping on an equinox. Nah. Don't pick Halloween and go tripping. Nah, or a day or two before or after maybe. But, pick a calm time, maybe not a full moon, for example. It may depend on the full moon and where you are. But, sometimes the energies can be overwhelming. Pick a half moon in a quiet place somewhere, where you can kind of let it out without being endangered by beings nearby. Here's this isn't necessarily always true, but the nearer you are to a city, the more the negative you're going to pick up. Don't care what the city is, it just sticks in the buildings and things. There's negative energy there. It may not be a lot, but it is there. So you want to stay away from any of those type of energies so that you have a positive experience with what you're doing. So think about it ahead of time. This, if you're just popping something, well, I'm going to see what happens in the universe. You better tie yourself to a chair because you may, God knows where you might end up or if you come back correctly. So, because there is so much extra activity in the cosmos, I knew it was there back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and the 90s and early 2000s. But, after seeing those woolly boogers in the other side, it's like, wait a minute, maybe I should play my cards better. Maybe I should take some of the wisdom, hopefully, that I've learned from the universe and from these experiences to guard myself better. And maybe I shouldn't go out there just tramping around like, a bull moose in a china shop kind of thing. So, but anyway, so my friends, this was one of them unplanned little events that, I promised. I Big Little Mew, I attract witters, love it because they're real. exactly. I have an eclectic group of friends, but they all have their, I'm crazy as a bed bug. So, the fact that they will tolerate me at any point, is like, there you go. But, depending on who you are and you look at their behavior, sometimes they're a little buggy too, and you got to put up with but that's true friendship. Truth to me, I'm humble in my humble opinion without the mind after maybe a healthier and definitely a gift. Without the mind altering, maybe a healthier. Truth to me, having not read up what's there, I'm looking at the bottom here. It's always worth the experience, especially if you plan your conditions. And if you've got somebody that's, and it's planned properly with a ceremony and, you know, proper warding spells, if you will, that being inside a sweat lodge with a few other folks who are experiencing the same thing, and a light bit of hallucinogen for a couple of hours to bring that sense up, within that's very, very enlightening, and oh my God. But I have also been in several sweat lodges without any kind of psychedelics or anything, and just have experienced things that I'm like, holy crap, I look at myself in the mirror and go, holy crap, I wasn't high. Whoa, whoa, you know what I'm saying? That was just nature in itself. But that's one of the things, though, I think I've tripped so many times that I'm still learning even though it's been probably a good 20 years since I've had any type of hallucinogen other than the mind altering crap they gave me from the doctor's office. I'm not counting that. But that I took on purpose because my mind was already altered, and I started understanding that maybe I've already overdone it and I should just leave it alone. And I always thought, well, the time isn't right. Well, what do you mean? Well, I don't know. I don't want to go out in the woods right now. I want to plant, anyway. But if you plan it and it's right, and only you can decide if somebody's trying to push you into it. And the other thing is like, well, I really want to know what it's like. So you become over enthusiastic because I want that experience. Careful what you wish for. And always try a smaller dose than an overdose. That's always the best rule. You can always, like, if it's a whole one, maybe take a half, because you can always take the other half. But if you take the whole one, that's it. Hang on. So one person might have to, I knew one guy, one hit of acid just didn't do it. He had to take another. And I was like, 30 minutes, I'm already like, boom, I'm heading out. And he's chunking another one down. I'm like, whoa. One night I found out we were drinking hot chocolate in Sarasota, Florida at 5:30 in the morning. And I realized I was like, he was sitting over there laughing at me. I came back from the bathroom and I'm like, what did you do? Nothing. What did you do? Nothing. We took a hit of acid in Tampa before we went to Sarasota. So I drink the hot chocolate down and we leave. And about 10 minutes later, I start getting a buzz. He had dropped a whole nother hit of acid in my hot chocolate. So the drive back to Tampa was really strange. But, and those are the times it's like, you can't take it back. It was already in you. You can't undo what's there. You got to write it out. So it's always better, though, to take a little less than a little too much. Everybody's system is different. You got to allow yourself, ding, come on, let's go. Me, I was like, I'm already there, so everybody's got their own limits in these things. Hi there, Delaney. Back in 67, they put free dabs of LSD in our newspaper. Uncle Bobby is still tripping. Yeah, let me tell you, now, there were people, I don't know, it's been 20 years ago now, and I just, it's not like people come up and offer me drugs anymore, but back in the day when I knew some folks, so I said, "Hey man, I got some acid. You want to do some?" And I was like, "Well, it's been a while. I usually just stick with mushrooms, but I hadn't seen any mushrooms in a while, and I was kind of in the partying mood. So I was like, well, here's some blotter." And I was like, "Okay, I'll take half of this." "No, man, you got to take it all." And I was like, "Well, I'll be the judge of that." I tore it in half and did it. An hour later, he's like, "Are you tripping yet, man? Are you tripping yet, man? Huh? Are you tripping?" And I was like, "I'm kind of feeling a buzz." "Well, oh man, you need to take the other half, right?" And I was like, well, I'd kind of already got this far, and it was working on almost 2 hour and a half, 2 hours. And I'm like, yeah, what the hell? It's probably going to lose my pocket anyway. So I eat the thing. An hour later, I'm still like, what's going on? And all these people are like, wow, I ate my that whole piece of blotter. And they're like, wow, man, wow. And I'm like, what? "Oh man, do you see the colors?" "What colors?" "Oh man, did you take you the whole one?" "Yeah." "Oh my God, the colors!" And I was like, it all came off the same sheet. They like, here's one for you, and here's one for you, and I'm like, how are you people tripping? Well, now maybe I just didn't get off on it, and I'm an old dunderhead, but it usually works the opposite way. It takes very little of something that's good, and I'm there. I'm like, bling. I don't need a whole hit or two. You give me I can smell it, and I'll let me smell a mushroom. I'll go into a trip just thinking about it. And that's part of the whole thing. Once you've been on a trip, now for those of you who haven't, just be careful. Always take a guide, please. Uncle Dave says, be careful, take a guide. Go with the camp counselor, and do what they ask. Don't take any weapons with you or anything like that, but, plan it ahead of time. But the experience, though, of the experience is what you're supposed to bring back. Of all the wisdom that I can offer you in this is that, look, go out there, have a good time, but also make it your mission to bring information back with you for your own self. Because in 2 days after the trip, you're going to go, what was that? What happened? And your mind will get kind of foggy. And it's that transition from the trip to normal reality again. Your brain does a shift. So if you do too much of it especially over a period of time, your brain doesn't have a chance to shift. So when you do stop it, that brain shift can be severe. You will absolutely think that the planet is moving. Like, what? And I didn't even take anything. It's your brain trying to get back to normal. So anyway, I love you all. I do. Your comments are wonderful. Yep, the spirit will. Thank you, Breaking Dawn. The spirit will attract those of your frequency, and your guide is there for your frequency. And also, too, it just think of a grounding rod. If you take a guide with you that stays on in this realm while you're out there, the guide is your grounding rod to you, and but it's your link. So it's not just a this or that. It's not just a guide. It's a whole. If it's a good guide, man, they will keep you linked to the earth while you're out wandering around. Now, as a guide myself, I have to say that I have sat there around the fire with somebody when they were when they were out walking around in the other world, and I have almost peed myself from the hilarity of some of the things that people experience down in the woods. I mean, wherever their journey leads them. I just got to say that there has been some really humorous, adventures on my part, and in those instances, you have a tendency to kind of let the person kind of like have a good time. Um, but when they start getting into the scary areas, you got to help be able to bring them back and keep them focused. Um, and sometimes humor is the best cure, and laughing and the endorphins and everything that go on within our bodies. So a good laughing trip. Spirit takes you on that journey. man, you come back and you're like your sides are hurting because you were laughing for hours, and but there you didn't know it because you were tripping. But the guide says, man, I got pictures. I got pictures of you rolling on the ground like this, laughing because you said you saw a hyena. You know, and how laughing how hyenas laugh, and you started laughing like the hyena. For the next hour, I sat here and stoked the fire and listened to you be a hyena. So listen, but he's a hyena, huh? Really? Scavenger, blah blah blah. Ew. And he kind of was sort of that kind of a anyway. But he actually learned something from it. But so you never know what they're going to encounter in places out there and stuff. You just have to kind of watch and see. But anyway, it's as fun to be a guide sometimes as it is tripping. And I'm have already kind of been out there, and it's like, yeah, would it be nice to do a good clean mushroom trip again? Maybe. But to watch somebody else do it for their first time and for me to be their guide, I think I would enjoy that more. I mean, to because I can see the journey through their eyes and I don't have to do it. And I would much rather be, I guess, the elder in the room, damn it, but that linking so they can do the walk. Because I've walked so many times, I've worn out two pairs of sneakers up there, and a pair of flip flops. Don't wear flip flops in the other world. Just saying, when you need to run from an entity and you're in flip flops, just think about it. So, uh, I'm looking back up through here. Truth in me, thank you for sharing your experience. Great advice about living your life and not worry about how it will work. As you become a more spiritual being, things just, well, I didn't plan on doing this video, but it just seemed like as I wanted to argue with my spirit guide, they were like, nah, there's somebody out there that actually kind of needs this information, and please share. Okie dokie. And I know there are people out there. I mean, there are a lot of people who took LSD and mushrooms and stuff just to get high. I got high, but I actually wanted more of the spiritual experience. That's why I always went to the woods. So it was always more for me than it was for other people. And then, well, I'm gonna do mushrooms. We're gonna ride around and get drunk. No, 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 no. No, I'm staying at the. I'm gonna sit right here and I'm gonna watch the stars and the moon and the spirits in the woods, and I'm gonna hang out here. So, and everybody, I think, who's willing to try it, especially with a guide and under circumstances, should try it. I do. Because once you experience it, you will come back. And even if you never do it again, you'll go, oh, holy shit. Because your whole paradigm will change. And you will look at things in another way simply because of that one experience. And so those folks like me who had to have it all the time, I became a junkie, you know, and that's not good on any level. But anyway, so I'm glad you all are having a good conversation in the chat. Big Little Mew says, when I was young without drugs, I could go into my head and travel into infinity. I wondered who made who, went backwards, and I would end up in space off Earth. Then it would end. I kind of sort of had similar events, not quite the same Big Little Mew, but I had similar events. My Sky, I sure do, Dave. I'm a union theatrical stave hand. So you get it, My Sky. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How hard it is to put a production on. Yeah. One time someone slipped PCP in the pot when I was young. My friend and I will never forget that. We laugh forever. I never had a super trip on stuff, but I'm going to give my drug feedback. I understand. Oh man, when somebody slips something in on you, my first trip on LSD was an accident. And some back in the late or well, it was 70. All right, it was the fall of 70 that I took my first acid trip, And this girl I'd known in high school, she comes by, and it was a festive event around Thanksgiving, and it was a band battle of the bands, and I was helping with the first group on, and I was their roadie and helper and blah 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 percussionist. Anyway, so when we got done, this girl comes up and she goes, "Hey Dave, you want some of my electric Coke?" I had no idea what an electric Coke was back then. Don't even know if they use that term anymore. But she was like, "There's a four-way hit of White Sunshine in there." And I was like, "Super, glug, 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 no." And she's just looking at me going, "Oh, wow, man. Oh, wow, man. Oh, wow, man." And I'm just like, "I'll buy you another one." "Oh, wow. No, no." Glug, glug, and I drank like that much of this electric Coke, had not a clue what White Sunshine was. And I woke up 2 days later going, "Oh, and now I know what White Sunshine is." And a four-way hit, oh, holy crap. So my experience with things, it was, I probably would have taken acid in the right circumstances, but that slip trip, whoa. And then after that, it was like, that was weird. I want to do it again, but I want to be in control. So then I found a bunch of hippie folks, and we all got in inner tubes and went floating down rivers and dropping acid for hours on the river and talking to the trees and the fairies and the wood spirits. And that's when I said, "Yep, this is for me." Talking to the trees and everything like that. And being around like-minded beings, other people who just felt that simple, hey, let's commune with the nature and things. And there was never any fighting or anything. It was great back in them days. But anyway, but yeah, being slipped something, I hate that. Big Little Mew says, "I had a smack many years ago. I smoked pot every day. One day, July 3rd, imagine didn't smoke the day before. Fireworks, boom, boom, didn't want it anymore. I'm still wondering." Yeah, sometimes things just happen. Thank you, Truth and Me, Ian, Dominic, if y'all are still there. I'm just going back up through to see. Um, but thank you. I listened to my spirit guide. Um, Milkhouse says, "David, how did you do it so much? I was too fascinated by it too, and eventually I wanted to try a bigger dose, which was so difficult and jarring. It still scares me away 10 months later." I was crazy back in them days, quite frankly. I was just crazy back in them days. I was like, well, if it's a little weird, maybe one more will fix it. You know, I absolutely went the opposite direction. But again, in my reality, there was a lesson in it. And oh my God, would I ever do that again? Oh, hell no. That's why I'm telling you folks, and anybody that might think about it. You may do it as an experiment, but do it. If you're going to do it, then do it as an experiment. Plan it, write it down. While you're tripping, write down. Practice certain things. Have someone on standby for just the dumbest things, because when you're tripping, you don't know. You think you do. You don't. So there should always be somebody on guard, that guide, to just make sure everything's okie dokie here. But the micro dosing and the milli dosing, which I didn't realize I had done it till people started talking about it now. And I was like, oh shit, I did that 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Oh, is that what it's called? Oh, okay. You know, I was I was always early sometimes with things, but is that what you call it? But you got to have a break no matter what you do. Ian says, and you're absolutely right. Being with the right people can make or break a good trip. And it can be the slightest little twist that can make that trip that was really kind of humming along just right take a left turn, and then whoops, make a reverse right turn, and you end up someplace you really didn't want to go. And it's hard to get folks back when they've taken the wrong turn, because then they start, oh my, then paranoia sets in. And as a guide, you want to try to keep that paranoia kind of sort of at a minimum. You know, somebody said, "Oh, the lights, the colors are all right. It's cool. It's normal. It is. Yeah, it's normal. What colors do you see?" And you allow them to describe it. And depending on who it is, some folks ask me to keep notes, but um, and to describe what they see. So it's like, all right, so what is your experience? What do well, there's a door. How big is the door? I don't know. It's freaking huge, man. Okay. Is it like tall as a tree, or is it like tall as a skyscraper? I don't know, man. It's huge, man. Okay. So what you do is you don't let them get paranoid. Well, can you tell me about, is it a skyscraper door? I don't know, man. Or could it be a smaller door? And but you feel like you're really short, and it's really not big. You're just small. What? Well, now you just need to grow up and see the door in real. Oh, wow, man, I was shrunk, huh? Yeah, it wasn't the door, it was you. You were trying to pretend you were an ant. What? I was an ant. Wow, man, that was cool, And then the door, but see, they were starting to panic about the door. So you give them something like they see it, so you can't convince them that they don't see it, but you convince them that, man, you were just like the size of an ant there for a minute. Oh, wow, yeah, man. So just stand up. Oh, okay. So it takes them out of paranoia. And that's just like an example of the types of things a good guide would do, because a good guide will feel the paranoia coming from the person. So you're sitting around the fire and the thing, and they're seeing images in the smoke, and if something negative starts to come in, now here's the thing: as a guide, it may be negative, so you don't try to slough it off, but you allow them to. Well, is it a mean looking thing? What does it look like? Is it scary? Oh, well, yeah, man, that thing's scary. That's so amazing idea. Holy God, it's got eyes like this, and they're like, "You okay? Calm down. You have a sword with you." I do? Yep. I put it in your back pocket. It's in your belt. Really? Yeah. There's a sword back there. Pull it out and use it. Man, I didn't know you put a sword on me. Yeah, it's for protection. Really? Wow, man. Why didn't you tell me? So I knew about this because, I wanted it to be a surprise. Oh, okay. Well, what about that thing? Well, you also got a shield. What? Yeah, because they're tripping. So your suggestions of like, it's not that you're trying to make them deal with what they're seeing. It's that, hey, you've got some tools on you. So now where you may have felt scared and paranoid, I just took your mind off of that entity, but I gave you tools that even in your own tripping mind, I got a sword, man. I got a shield. So I'm kind of protected. So that drops that paranoia level down right away. You don't want to try to like make light that there's actually a negative entity standing there in front of them. That could actually be a reality. But with that though, you arm them with things rather than, well, maybe you should run. Nah, don't do that, because then that paranoia, deer in the headlights fear kicks in, and that fear of flight, and that is not what you want. That, well, even if there was an entity or not the point, that's going to ruin the whole thing. So with the paranoia deal, so it's you have to be careful with what you do, especially as a guide. I have had a guide or two back in the day who said they were guides, and I'm like, that's when a friend of mine at the time, we were having a lot of little fires in the woods, different places, just groups of folk getting together, playing music or talking, doing mushrooms and asking questions of the universe, basically. And so it was early on in my career as a shaman, I guess. I was just learning to understand about, what the ceremony of the fire and what certain things was. I mean, this has been 30 years ago. Okay. So, but with that said, though, then the within the group we learned things, and somebody come up to me one day and they said, Hawkeye, you would make a better guide than these people. Won't you be our guide? Won't you guide our sleigh tonight? That's how the reindeer loved him, and he shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, I'll guide your sleigh tonight. You know, so that's kind of how it was. But the thing is that I realized at some point I really did understand the trip better than these purported people who called themselves guides. And it wasn't that I was like, trying to be like, look at me, I'm a better. No, I mean, I literally, people said, I don't want to hang out with them. Can I come to your place and trip? Yeah, okay. I mean, in a way, that's sort of a compliment. But it's also they didn't have any place else to go, but that they had other choices, is what I saw it as. You got a choice to go over there with this group. No, 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 no. Can I come to your place? All right. So, but anyway, with that said, though, yeah, Delaney says I was taught to trip on shrooms or LSD, always in nature. It should be absolutely. Um, Millie Cow says bad trip is pretty unlikely if you don't take too much or too often or with the wrong mindset, people, or setting. Exactly. But, and I have seen this with sort of a newbie, and give them a small dose, and any tripping was bad for them. They just did not need to trip ever. They became so paranoid of stuff, and it was whatever their constitution was as a person, did not need to trip. Nope. And the boyfriend, it was like, oh, come on, let's go trip. Nah, nope. Didn't even want to be around it. It freaked her out. She went into another realm, and whatever it was for her mind, she could not handle it. So any dosage to her would have been too much. I'm just pointing that out, but I do agree with you. If you choose and plan your setting, there's always stuff that can happen though, but if you choose and plan your setting, then the chances of your trip going sideways much lower. But I agree with you. Yes, I do agree with you. Gerald, hi, how are you? You did, I don't know, haven't had supper yet, but now that you mention it, it might be time for something to eat. Let's see. Okay, come on down. I got a small taste of it. Only took me a few months to reach some level of inner peace. Again, I'm lucky. I didn't get delusional or anything, but I had to do a lot of personal shadow work. Had to. I couldn't ignore my problems anymore. Um, Milk out, absolutely. You got to go into. I didn't even know I had such deep, dark corners. It wasn't necessarily from this life, but there were deep, dark corners I had to go into and understand, deal with paranoia. It was, you got to go there. You just got to. Truth in me, is LSD acid? Yes. Now, I didn't get my point across earlier when I said that some people gave me some acid and they were all tripping and I wasn't. So people call things acid when it ain't really. So, but lysergic, I'll get this out. Lysergic diethylamide is LSD. And get this, morning glory seeds, morning glory, the flower, the seeds, not the ones you get in the packet now because they're treated, but morning glory seeds crushed down can give you a natural LSD effect. You got to crush a bunch of them, but morning glory seeds, lysergic diethylamide. I think tripping would be bad for me too because I've done it so much and I don't think my mind could handle the intensity anymore. I'm kind of sort of with you, Milk Cow. I'm more, if I knew, if I picked the mushrooms, I would do the mushrooms, but that's the only way. I wouldn't, if somebody said, here's some acid, no, not taking it. Because I've had so many other drugs that messed with my mind, and it was not pretty. Did not like it, did not like where it put me. But an honest, excuse me, an honest to God, true mushroom I picked, like in the old days, I would do that. Not like every day, but that would be my choice. Gerald says, as far as high frequency psilocybin trip, Terrence McKenna would always claim 5 dry grams on empty stomach is the perfect amount. 5 dry grams. Oh, come on. Seriously? And on an empty stomach is not really the best thing, but you should have eaten something a couple of hours before you do mushrooms. Not right before, but a couple hours, and not an empty stomach. That's not necessarily true, because your stomach will growl and pitch and turn, and you'll wish you had something in your stomach, but you'll be tripping so much you won't be able to eat it. And we put mushrooms in spaghetti sauce one time because we had like 4 or 5 pounds of them. We had just picked out of the field beside the house. I mean, 10 feet beside the house, big field, a lot of mushrooms, bunch of cows back in the early 70s. And so we chopped them all up and put them in the spaghetti sauce. We started eating the spaghetti. And as we ate the spaghetti started to move. And so I'm doing the spaghetti, twirling it on the fork and eating it, and you're slurping up that little wiggle of spaghetti. And I look across to my friend, and my brother's on my right, and we all look at each other, and we've all got these dangling pieces of spaghetti going into our mouth, and it looked like worms trying to go in us. And we busted out laughing. He spurted spaghetti across the table at me. I had spaghetti coming out my nose, and then before you knew it, it's like we didn't get any food, and we hadn't eaten. I mean, we could like, oh look, there's a mushroom. Ate the mushroom, and in less than 10 minutes, whatever it was, we could not eat any more spaghetti. We were laughing so hard. Every time we looked to the table, we had to leave the room. My wife was pissed off. She's like, what's wrong with my spaghetti? I said, nothing, but it's crawling. What? And we all giggle again, but the spaghetti's crawling, honey. What do you mean? Well, we put magic mushrooms in the spaghetti sauce. You did what? You did what to my spaghetti sauce? Of course, it's too late now because we're already way out. This 5 grams dried, blah, blah, blah. Oh, come on. Grab a button and eat the damn thing. Don't eat the stem, though. Bad. And if you're picking them, mushrooms, always put your 2 fingers under the mushroom. Put your thumb on top of it, and you push down and pull up on the mushroom, and it'll separate it from the stem and leave a little white circle. Don't pick the stem, because another mushroom, because of the fungus around the bottom of the mushroom, other mushrooms will grow from it. So if you know where there are mushrooms, people come home with the stems and everything, and I go, you're a blithering idiot. Why? Well, because that fungus there at the bottom that you just brought home, that's where more will grow out of, you dummy. You could have went back in 2 or 3 days and picked more from this same clump. Only take the button. Well, I do what anyway. I probably know too much about too many things, but I had a field right beside the house. Lived there for 4 years. I mean, I had mushrooms coming out my ears, literally, because we'd already come out every other orifice, But yeah, we distilled some one time and turned it into mushroom alcohol. Oh my God, it stunk like hell. But you took a shot of that stuff. If you could get it past your nose, you were tripping almost instantly. It was wild. Yeah, we had about 2 gallons in a pressure cooker of cooked down mushrooms it was almost like a paste. And we added water and then ran the water, put it in a pressure cooker. So steamed it. And the steam that came off of it is what we caught. and we had the first, second, and third until all the water was boiled off of those shroom after we got mushed the shrooms and the juice and everything and cooked off that juice. Oh my God. Oh man. Whew. I don't know what we did, but it would kill a rhino. I mean, you open up the lid. I mean, a rhinoceros would stop. I'm just saying. Big Little Muse says, my grandmother lover grew her morning glories at her little front window. I watched them. Yeah, read up on it. And morning glories has got one of the key elements in lysergic diethylamide. So, if you really wanted to do it, you could just, I mean, I got morning glory seeds out in the garden now that grew this last season. So if I was like really into it, I'd go out there and gather the seeds. Yeah, but Milk Cow said, I ate 4 gram dry, and that was what shook me deeply. Oh, man. 4 grams. Oh, crap. That would have been like a half a dose to us. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, holy crap. Um, if we'd only stopped at 4 grams, I mean, oh, man. Because we would like pick 2 or 3 mushrooms, and one of them would be a couple of grams, and 2 or 3 mushrooms, a little, there's a little piece there, and you eat that one too. So, Lord have mercy, we were eating 8-10 grams of mushroom, not dried, but but nice chunky ones, But anyway, uh, I hear morning glory seeds are really bad on the stomach. It's all bad on your stomach. Yeah, 0.5 grams is enough for me. All I got to do is smell them. You know what I mean? All right. The mushrooms have been used by every culture around the world, and the berserkers are a perfect example. They took it before battle. Yeah, and I can understand. And here's the thing now, the psilocybin mushrooms that are down here in South Georgia are of a certain class. All right. So the psilocybin mushrooms that are in Mexico and over here and over there, they are not the same ones. And temperature, humidity, sunlight, lack of sunlight, because they like to grow in the dark, but the conditions, Now there are people who grow the psilocybins, in cages, whatever, terrariums, thingies. But if you're doing it for out, but the thing is that though every situation is different for the potency, they have similar tendencies. But I would much beg to differ that I've had mushrooms from North Georgia, and they didn't work the same as these ones down here. And at certain times of the year, the mushrooms down here were more potent than at other times of the year. So saying 4 grams of something, what time of year was it? Where was it grown? What temperate zone was it in? What type of psilocybin mushroom? There are different types. Which one are you trying to tell me you've got? And they have different potency in all of these things related. For example, the Vidalia onion is grown in Vidalia, Georgia, because the ground is so different than any other place, and even in places in Georgia, and it makes the Vidalia onion sweet. There are people that try to sell Vidalia onions, and the city and the county and even the state got into it. You can't call it a Vidalia onion unless it was grown in Vidalia, Georgia. You can call it a Vidalia type onion, but you cannot call it a true Vidalia onion. And I agree, because there are folks who grow these types of onions and they're not as sweet as the true Vidalia. It's where they grow. Certain types of grapes and wine and so forth, certain areas of France, California, it doesn't grow the same in other areas. So the same thing with mushrooms is true, or any kind of organic, actually. So, and what was last year like? What's the temperature of the ground? How much is the moisture? And what's in the cow poo to make the mushroom do what it does? So, well, there are a lot of factors in there, but the idea that, that this amount of whatever and you don't have a clear is. I mean, it's like, well, this weed was grown in Florida. This weed was grown in California. They're both marijuanas. They're both weeds, but they don't give you the same high. Well, then think about that about mushrooms too, and location. So, but anyway, um, even 5.5 grams can be more than you want. Mushrooms are unpredictable, even in the same batch. Different mushroom. Thank you very much. I read your comment after I went through that little rant. But you're right, Milk Cow. Big Little Mew, my grandmother loved her. Okay. Um, yeah, 5 grams can change your whole life forever. You'll never forget the experience. Um, I don't think high dose mushrooms give you any control at all. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they are similar to DMT. I consider it in the same kind of category because we overdid it by accident with some mushrooms a couple of times, not intending to go too high. But the amount of high and where we went and what we saw and experienced is like, oh, holy crap. I'd had acid, so I could compare the mushroom high to being high on LSD. And I'm here to tell you the mushroom high, it was cleaner. It was more, there wasn't near as much paranoia, kind of umpy stuff around it. I don't know. And it's natural. So when you commune with nature with a natural substance, there's some kind of symbiosis that goes there versus taking a chemical to get in touch with nature. But I digress. But yeah, the mushrooms, yeah, in the same field, on the same cow patty, this mushroom this big will tear up 2 people. On the other side of the same cow patty, same field, same everything, it's this big, and half of it won't get you high. It's the way it was. So the idea that any specific amount of something that sort of varies like that, that's why I'm highly suspicious of it. It's like, I'd rather look at the mushroom and go, okay, I'll eat you. Anyway. Psilocybin is 4-HODMT or psilocybin. I forgot. Body metabolizes psilocybin into, and you can trip on that. My point is the DMT molecule is in mushrooms, but with other molecules attached. Oh, yeah. I got you. Have you ever had Amanita muscaria? I know what they are, and no, I ain't going to eat them. And there are people down here that there is an Amanita variant, and the thing is there is no purple around the stem. It's more of a gray. And I had these quote hippie heads, youngsters come to me one time and go, Mr. Dave, let's eat some mushrooms. And I said, did y'all eat any of these? Well, yeah. And I said, pray you don't die. What? I said, them ain't them, and you shouldn't be eating them. I got a mushroom book. No, how many of these you pick? Well, I don't know. We eat about 8 or 10 of them. What? Yeah, come on. Nah, guys, no, please leave. If you're going to get sick and die, not here. Nuh-uh. Don't want to be a part of this because you guys were balloon heads. I said, he was like, well, you said to bring you some mushrooms. And I said, bring them to me so I could prove if you were eating the right ones, you dumbass. So they had already eaten half of the bag and then bring me this stuff. And I'm going, no, please don't eat anymore, and upchuck what you can. If you stick your finger down your throat and get it out of you. No. Oh, some of them boys were sick, and it's like, yeah, dumbass, And the thing I think that has tricked people is sometimes some of the mushrooms, the little skirt that around the stem, it'll look purple-ish, but it won't be that dark purple. It won't be that put it on your hands and it smears on. It will be a brownish tint. And people pick the wrong ones and think they're getting high when they're actually borderline dying, but we will just leave it at that. All right, my friends. Um, Milk House says, I've also tried a couple of synthetic, whoops, come back here. Tryptamines, they all feel very similar to mushrooms. If it's the difference how quickly it metabolizes. DMT is very fast. Ian says it's psilocybin season right now. Yes, it is right now, actually. And we just had some rain and that low's supposed to move in. All I got to do now is find some cows. But yep, it's the season to be jolly, especially if you look, even in the mushrooms books, it'll tell you that there are seasons for mushrooms. And down here in the South, this is time. But yep, yeah, amanitas can kill you. Interesting phone is now dying. We'll watch later. Take care, all. Truth and me, thanks for hanging out. See you later. I think even Amanita is toxic. Yeah, no, don't no. Anybody that that even picks up an Amanita needs to go someplace else. But with that, yeah, they're toxic. Yep, they're toxic. Don't even go there. You know what I mean? Ian, Milk Cow, Truth and Me's already gone. Breaking Dawn sitting here, but I'm gonna get off of this. 6:01 p.m. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Thursday night. So be safe, be kind, be sweet, be careful with what you do, and always have a guide. And I'll close with a prayer as always. I do continue to pray that each and every one of you will accept and receive the healings, the blessings, and the knowledge from the universe without DMT. I continue to pray that each and every one of you will accept and receive for your friends and your family and all of your relations, accept and receive the healings and the blessings from the universe. And again, I pray that each and every one of you will accept, receive, and continue to share what you've learned from the universe. Spread it around, be kind, be sweet, always be nice, and keep it between the ditches, as me and my friends say down here in South Georgia. So I love you all until next time. Cheers.